This episode will be discussing and creating a case study of an incredibly invasive plant, scientifically known as Phaloppia japonica, but more commonly known as the Japanese knotweed. This plant is significant to me as I live close to an area that is currently dealing with a serious infestation. Over the years of living close to the site of special scientific interest Sharkham Point, I have observed how this plant has managed to crowd more and more areas of the local environment, and this has posed a risk to native species. This site in particular has been identified by Torbay Council as having issues with poor land management and abandonment. The Japanese knotweed is incredibly successful in dominating resources and outcompeting the native plants, and according to the Royal Horticultural Society, the plant can grow up to 2 meters in height. The research found in the Botanical Journal of the Linnean Society from 2008 discovered that this plant can also asexually reproduce. Investigations into the genetic variation of plants that have reproduced found that there were identical markers in the offspring and the parent plants. This poses a risk if any resistance genes develop, and allows the plant to not need pollinators to reproduce. The Japanese knotweed is believed to have been first introduced in the 1800s as a decorative plant and also can be found as a garden plant. Yet poor domestic management has led to the release of this invasive plant into the UK's local environment. Japanese knotweed is difficult to remove from an environment once it has begun growing. This plant can grow underground to a depth of 3 meters and a horizontal spread of 7 meters. The resilience of this plant is what makes it an issue to remove, and on average it takes 3 years of management to remove it from a site. It can even remain dormant for up to 20 years, and this creates an issue on development sites, as Japanese knotweed may not become an issue until years down the line after the construction has taken place. So, how do we reduce the spread of this invasive species and remove it from the environment? The most common large-scale technique is a chemical herbicide called glyphosate. This is a herbicide that is effective in preventing future invasions, as it is a translocated herbicide and therefore is transported around the plant, including the rhizomes in the soil. In the autumn, when the plant draws from stores in the dying stalks and leaves above ground, this herbicide travels down to the rhizomes. This herbicide also is suitable for use near water, as it is deactivated by microorganisms in the soil and doesn't leach. However, the use of glyphosate has become controversial. In the US, this herbicide is banned due to links to cancer and the death of insects. Scientists warn that this herbicide can disrupt the natural food chains of these environments and may do more harm than good when protecting an environment. It has been in use for over 50 years, and research found in the Journal of Pest Management Science from 2014 shows resistance to this herbicide is presenting. One form of this is in the membrane of the chloroplasts, which has the transporter for the uptake of metabolites. Glyphosate has successfully been blocked by the transporter in these membranes. An alternative control method is introducing the natural consumer of Japanese knotweed to reduce the rapid growth and dominating patterns of the plant. One example is the scientifically named Alphalara itadori. This insect sucks the sap out of the knotweed, and this stunts the growth and reduces competition. This is suggested to be the most sustainable method of management by Dr. Dick Shaw, who has led research into the relationship between this insect and the Japanese knotweed, and they are co-evolved species. However, the introduction of this insect requires licensing and it takes time to be introduced. Also, it can't be accurately predicted exactly what the insect will consume or how successful the insect will be. There are many knock-on effects of introducing a species that need to be considered. For example, the insect may be too successful and overpopulation may occur with no natural predator, as seen with the famous case of the cane toad in Australia. This can further impact the population of native insects, and this has knock-on impacts on what is feeding on these insects and the food chain. The future of the management of the Japanese knotweed is unclear, but is becoming an increasing issue due to the rapid and dominating spread of the plant. Continuing use of the same herbicide can lead to resistance development in the plant populations, along with research found in the Biological Invasions Journal conducted in 2018, which showed that the Phaloppia and Bohemica species of the knotweed can breed to create hybrid plants, which increases the probability of mutations. Therefore, new methods need to be used in the future to control and mitigate the damage to native environments caused by this incredibly invasive plant. This episode